Well, good morning, second hour. Just like yesterday, while I'm starting to go over what you can expect today, you can feel free to open up your week 2 assignment on Schoology. Going to be giving you some answers today so you can add those right on as we go. Okay, so what you can expect today is I'm going to go over next week's quiz with you, what you can expect, what the policies are, what'll be on it. And I'm also going to point out some additional resources today to help you this week. Then finally, I'm going to model some answers from the week 2 handout, tell you which ones you can use word for word and which ones should be your answer. All right, so at this point, I'm going to move on to talk about your quiz. Here's the notes we had yesterday. So your first quiz is going to be next week, week 3. You'll get to practice every quiz before we take it, because I always take the questions from your work. Okay, so you'll already get to practice these answers in your formative work. I also really believe in giving people questions ahead of time. I don't like pop quizzes or gotcha questions on quizzes. Also, unless otherwise directed, answers won't be graded for grammar or mechanics. So unless I say your answer, usually that'll be paragraphs and things. But I'll say specifically when I'm looking for, is the comma in the right place? Do you have a capitalized letter at the start? That kind of deal. All right. So how do I get ready for it then? If I've already done some of the questions, how do I study for the quiz? The best way to study or prepare is to do your weekly work. For example, week 1 and week 2. Then once you've submitted it and you get it back, read the feedback I give you. So that way you can see, are all of my answers correct or not? If you're missing an answer or it's not right, that way you have time to correct it and get the right answer before the quiz. All of your quizzes are open note, and you can often use the same answers from your formative work. The goal in a quiz is summative. It's to see, did the student learn what we needed them to learn? So that's why the questions are the same. Remember, quizzes are summative. They're worth 60% of your quarter 3 grade. Formative, like weekly work, is worth 40. So make sure you do the quizzes so you can pass. I'm going to set them up on the main page of Schoology, and I set them up so you can retake them as many times as you need. They're not timed. I know some of you have IEPs and 504s. Let me know ahead of time. Remind me if you need accommodations for your test. For example, some people test in the resource room. Obviously, that's absolutely fine. Those are legal documents. We follow them. I've also included, for those of you who need this adaptation and you don't have to have any paperwork to do this, I've included on there that you can answer verbally. So it should have a prompt when you take the quiz. This is the first time I've tried it this way. There should be a prompt when you take the quiz where you can record an answer. So you can say it if that's easier for you than writing it. Again, the goal is to see, what did you learn? Did you learn what you were supposed to? So that's a little bit about the quizzes. I'm going to talk next about optional resources, and then we're going to do examples, answers. So here are your optional resources for the week. These are to help you learn, to help you review, or to challenge yourself, all right? And I always list if it's a challenge option on the link. I try to make sure any resource I give you is under 10 minutes to use it. All right, so here we have some review on imagery to help you with that, and then 2 videos about our writer from yesterday, Mom and Day. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to switch to your examples. In other words, to week 2. So if you haven't pulled this up yet, I would. Free answers. So here's how I'm grading you this week. 5 points for, does your work show an understanding of imagery and the Wayne and Rainey Mountain? And you show that with supporting details and examples. Second thing I'm grading you on is, have you prepared for the first summative assessment, quiz 1, by completing prompts, reviewing week 1 work, and connecting it to week 2? Like I said a moment ago, there's no surprise questions on your quizzes. You're going to see them word for word here. Here's where you're going to do that CTA vote that we talked about yesterday. So if you want a story every week, say yes. If no, click no. Okay, so those ones we went over yesterday. Let's talk about the ones we haven't really talked about. Let's talk about task 2. And at the end of the week, if you're looking for these answers again, I put them right into the green resources folder on Schoology. So that's where I store these. Okay, so number 1, you can take my answer if you wish. So the first question to get you ready for next week's quiz is, what is a creation myth? Define it below. Hopefully that sounds familiar because we did that last week, but here's the answer. And again, you can take my answer word for word here. A story that explains how life started or how the natural world works, usually with supernatural elements, and most societies have these stories. So I'll pause for a moment so you can get that, and then we'll move on to number 2. All right, 2. And again, all of these are on your quiz. Name or describe at least one characteristic of creation myths. As you know, there's 4 of them, but you only need 1 for the quiz. Give an example that shows how the characteristic works. So first you write the creation myth characteristic, write it out, don't just give the number. So I picked the natural world is explained. And yes, you can take this answer if you wish. Then an example that shows how the characteristic works. In the Norse culture, Thor creates thunder and lightning. Like I said in week 1, when you're answering these, you absolutely can include the details from your own religion's or your own culture's creation myth. Pause so you can get that, and then we'll move on. All right, continuing with questions on your quiz. So in the Iroquois First Nations creation myth, also known as the world on the turtle's back, animals are an important part of the story. Write or describe at least one way in which animals help humans in the creation story. Then I gave you some sentence starters that you can or cannot try, up to you. And yes, you can take this answer. So one way that animals help in the world on the turtle's back is the turtle in the world on the turtle's back shows animals are important because animals helped humans from the start. The turtle gives the sky woman a place to land, and this forms the earth. If you prefer to write about other animals in there, you absolutely could. There's so many instances. Pause so you can get that answer, and then we'll move on to number 4. All right, number 4. The twin brothers in the Iroquois First Nations creation myth, World on the Turtle's Back, have a relationship and a symbolism meant to instruct the tribe. Write or describe below what the twins represent, either in human nature or what lessons they teach about life. Again, I gave you some sentence starters if you want to use them. And yes, you could take this answer. So I wrote, the twins represent balance in the world on the turtle's back, in that they represent good and bad, and them having equal power in the story shows humans need to balance the 2 sides of their nature to live well. I'll pause so you can write your answer. So for this one, notice it just says answer because this is going to be your opinion. So this is your last set of questions from week 1 to connect to week 2. So describe in the space below either what story, work, or examples had the best imagery, or you can write the best thing you've learned so far. Let's go ahead and write your answer below. Pause so you can do that. So you folks have the rest of the time to finish your week 2 handout, get that in. Remember, finishing that is prepping for your quiz next week. Once it's graded, check the answers and the feedback to make sure you're ready for next week's quiz. If you haven't handed in your week 1 handout, and there's quite a few of you who are in that situation, I would also suggest when you get this done today, your week 2, go back and get week 1 done. And again, great place to look would be in your Schoology page on your green resources file. That's where week 1 suggested answers are. As always, I will be in the meet if anyone has any questions. Go for it. You got this.